Welcome to the AWSUM Program tutorial. The AWSumPro is AWS's interactive program that contractors and designers can utilize to determine system size and configuration. Within the AWSumPro, there are 4 pages: tank sizing, soil-based treatment, pressure distribution, and pump detail. The first page is tank sizing. This page will determine the peak flow produced and the septic tank size required. When the bedrooms are entered, the program automatically determines the minimum peak flow and the minimum working capacity required. The fixtures must now be entered to determine if the fixture count limit has been exceeded and thus peak flow and working capacity adjusted. By putting the cursor over the appropriate field box, a definition of that field will be given. Knowing what a bathroom group consists of allows you to add an extra basin, for example, if a vanity happens to have a double basin. We'll also add an extra basin and an extra toilet to account for a half bath. So in review, we have a house with 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, with 1 bath having an extra basin. The peak flow expected is 456 gallons a day, and the septic tank required is a 1,500-gallon ring top. The second page is soil-based treatment. This is the first page that has different levels of warnings. There is a yellow alert that lets you know that there may be potential issues with what is entered. There is a red warning that indicates what is entered is not permissible within the 2009 standard of practice and typically stops any further calculations from taking place. As well, you may notice that depending on what is entered, other boxes may be grayed out, thus not allowing you to enter anything in that field. In the top left box, there is room to enter project information. Next, you need to choose either primary or secondary treatment. For this example, we'll use primary treatment. We'll skip time dosing, and the design flow is automatically populated from the tank sizing calculations. The next box is the soil. You should already have this information from your field investigation. For this example, we'll say the soil texture is medium sandy loam, the structure shape is granular, and the structure grade is moderate to strong. We'll say the slope of the land is 1%. A restrictive layer was found at 84 inches, which would make the infiltration distance 60 inches if digging a 2-foot deep trench. Notice what happens if an infiltration distance of less than 60 inches is entered. A red warning appears, and since the program defaults to a field design, all further fields are grayed out due to the fact that all primary fields require a minimum 60 inches of infiltration distance. But if we were to go back and change the treatment to secondary, then we would be able to continue, as secondary fields only require 36 inches of infiltration distance. You will also notice that the at-grade option is grayed out due to the fact that secondary treatment is required in order to utilize an at-grade. But we'll go back, enter the infiltration distance at 60 plus and continue. We'll select chambers with a width of 22 inches and a height of 12 inches. The number of lateral trenches must now be entered. Let's try 4 and see what happens. As you can see, the length of each lateral trench required is 79.7 feet. This requires 2 pressure distribution laterals of 39.9 feet per trench due to the fact that a pressure distribution lateral can be no longer than 65 feet. Since this would make the plumbing somewhat involved, let's try adding another trench. Perfect. The length of each lateral trench required is 63.8 feet, and since this is less than the maximum of 65 feet for a pressure distribution lateral, we only need 1 lateral per trench. If you click the arrow in the top right corner of the box, the calculations will be displayed. They can be printed by going to the File tab and selecting Print Worksheet. So in review, we have a pressurized primary field. The design flow is 456 gallons a day that will be dosed within chambers over soil that is classified as medium sandy loam. We have 5 trenches measuring 63.8 feet in length. The third page is pressure distribution. The first entry is the discharge assembly size, or the internal plumbing in your septic tank. We'll use 2-inch for this example. The next entry is transport length. We'll say our field is 150 feet away from our septic tank, and we'll use a series 160 2-inch drop pipe. We do not need a distribution valve for this example. Our next entry is the lift required from our pump to the discharge height of our manifold at our field. We'll say it's 10 feet. Our total manifold length we'll assume is 50 feet, and we'll use Sked 40 2-inch PVC pipe for our manifold. It has already been determined that we have 5 laterals at 63.8 feet. We'll use Sked 40 1-inch PVC pipe for our laterals. Our orifice size is an 1/8 inch, and they will be spaced 3 feet apart. The residual head required at the last orifice is 5 feet, and we'll drill in a 5/32 drain back hole in our septic tank plumbing. The last entries are the pressure loss due to fittings. We'll add 3 90-degree elbows inside our tank and 2 adapters, one off the pump and one leaving the tank. We'll include 2 adapters on our transport line, one off of the tank and one connecting to our manifold. For the manifold, we'll have 7 90s, 1 T-on branch, 3 T-on runs, and 5 adapters. There are no warnings that have come up, so the pump required needs to produce 46.8 gallons per minute and achieve 22.3 feet of lift. The last page is pump detail. The top left corner shows you the specs that were determined on the pressure distribution page, and the graph plots the design point. There is a list of pumps that AWS carries to choose from. For this example, let's look at the Gould's WE series. Click on the plus sign and it will show you all of the Gould's pumps we carry. Now let's see how these pumps relate to the design point curve. The WE0511H appears to be the perfect pump for this application. You can now print the summary or go to the File tab and print individual pages for your permit submission. Thanks for your time. Please contact AWS for any further questions.